Today, I am going to talk about the experiment I did over the holiday weekends or holiday season. It only took 2 days actually before I put a stamp on stopping it. I'll get into it a little further, but I ran an experiment about how far AI can recreate the film. I gotta warn you that it looked really creepy. I look at it now. I mean, granted, it was from 12 years ago, but at the same time, it's a student work, and I was just learning how to do animation, modeling, texturing, compositing, and all these things I was learning right before I started putting together as a film.
Cheers, mix, click, and code with Boozy Browsing, sipping and fixing the web one cocktail at a time.
Well, that's up today, so I will be running Boozy Browsing solo like Bat did last time and see how well I can hold this. Right now, there's my cat's in the room, so I don't know what's gonna go wrong because she's never been into this room. So hopefully she doesn't interrupt and doesn't flip out as I go. Anyways, um, so today I am going to talk about the experiment I did over the holiday weekends or holiday season. It only took 2 days actually before I put a stamp on stopping it, but I'll get into it a little further. But I ran an experiment about how far AI can recreate the film. So going back to, I did masters at SVA, School of Visual Arts in New York City. Shout out to 3D animation for SBA program for digital art program. But my specific thing was 3D animation back in 2013. So I graduated 2013 and I did my thesis as a part of graduation thesis. Um, what it was is it's about 3 to 4 minute clip, animated clip that I made for the program. So it took the entire year to make it. But I'll get into the whole details. But before, I will introduce my beer. So this is still going off of the beer that we received from our sponsors from Brews that we had a different one last time with Matt, but this time I am going to try out Citrus Smash. This is a pale ale, the two-row malt, citra hops, bright, crisp, and citrusy, with subtle orange peel notes. And I have the 32-ounce bottle again. I'm not going to put it in a cup this time because last time that was a disaster. So, but I remember this was a little difficult to pop it. I got it. Cheers to myself. I like it. I have to admit, they gave us three different types of beer, but they're all very good. I would definitely recommend trying this out if you're in the neighborhood or if there's a way for you to get it online. These are very, very good quality beer. Anyways, so going back to my experiment. So in 2023, the thesis actually took the entire year because I was doing everything. I was creating the characters, designing and creating the characters, and putting the storyboard and putting the story together. You have to model the character and you have to rig it so that you can animate it. You have to make all the scenes, model all the scenes, and you also have to get the music. And I actually got my music made by my friend, which was amazing. And you also have to do after you put all the animations together. So you have to put the storyboard initially and to make sure that story makes sense and have cut it to the right scenes and plan it out pretty much. Um, it's similar to putting the requirements together to get the websites together. So after planning all that and building all the parts, so characters, scenes, texture, um, rigging, and you have to animate, and after that, you have to start rendering with the right texture on it. Um, uh, and after all the render scenes, you have to composite it to make sure that they fit to how I want it. And compositing it and putting it all together and putting together with the music. So there's a whole process of creating a short film in traditional way. And I was learning all those little skills to put that together. Most of the times, um, now in hindsight, I should have grouped with other people and then we separate the task and then do it. But at the time, I wasn't even aware that I was going to do that. And also, I was doing it as a part time. I was working full time at the same time. I was working full time during the whole program. So it was very difficult, but at the same time, I learned a lot. I didn't realize there's so much involved in creating a film. And it was about the actual clip um, is about 3.5, 3 minutes, like 2.5 and 3 minutes. But there's like beginning and then the credits and all those things go. So I think it ended up with 4 minutes. But I'll show you the actual product of 2013. I gotta warn you that it looked really creepy. I look at it now. I mean, granted, it was from 12 years ago, but at the same time, it's a student work, and I was just learning how to do animation, modeling, texturing, compositing, and all these things I was learning right before I started putting together as a film. So let's start with looking at the actual clip. So it's easier to compare it after. All right, I'll stop it there. So you can see that everything was done by me, directed by me, story by me, character design, modeling, texturing, rigging, animation, compositing, special effect, all me. Thesis group leader, my professor then, advisor who was helping me with the directions on compositing stuff and art direction, helped by now my husband, and music by Kevin Skelly, my friend. And So looking at that, that was the original film from 2013. So I wanted to recreate that with using AI. So the way I did it is that I wanted to do it right. So I'll start with the same process I took. And I was planning on spending a couple days, well, like 2 to 4 days, but I can give you in a recap. So I started with the character design based on my original design. And I put the storyboard together. And I have originally, I think I had 13 different scenes, but I wanted to break it down a little further so that it doesn't try to create the entire thing by AI by itself because I thought it would be easier and it'll be better quality if I segment it by the scenes. So starting all that, I'm gonna fast forward all these things because all these technicalities might not be relevant, but just kind of show the process of what was going on. I'll show. All right. So I use Manus for creating this because they use Nano Banana with video creating. I think that's what Gemini uses, the VO3 uses. And I do like the style of what Nano Banana Pro does. So that was my choice of AI for that. All right. As you can see, here's the process. It's a long process because I'm not going to get into all of it, but if I can go all the way to the top, hopefully I can, or we'll edit this out to me scrolling it because I realized that I was trying to show the top and probably the end results, but also the process, some of the processes that were there. All right, this is gonna take forever to roll it. And you can pretty much tell by now that how many different iterations I have to do, how many updates I need to do, how many modifications I have to make. But we'll get into a little more details on that as we go. So I was trying to recreate my characters. So like I put my original characters in here. So you look at it. So that was the 360 rotation of the original character I created. And same for the bird. Uh, So I fed that in as a character. And then the story plot, I don't know if it was difficult to capture from watching the video. It is supposed to be a quirky story of a bird going into a nursery of this baby who was napping, and they become friends or hanging out, and then bird accidentally sneezes on the baby, and that gave him a bird flu pretty much. So you'll see the whole process of bird spit going into baby's mouth, and it's starting to germ, and the baby start getting sick. So when the bird found out the baby was sick, he goes back to the medicine that was there when he was entering the room and then give him that medicine, and that goes into his body again, showing the medicine will be fighting with the white cell is fighting the germs, and it beats the germs off. And as he beats that off, the baby sneezes, which spits out a ginormous exaggerated saliva to the baby to the bird. And baby is about to sneeze again, and then bird was trying to run away so he can avoid the giant saliva again. And baby catches his leg and just put it into his mouth. The joke was that I'm a baby, I just put everything into my mouth. But it was it might not be very clear from that short clip because it's always one of those things that when you look at your work 12 years later, it looks so crappy. Anyways, so with that, I started with the character design. All right. I know this is like probably very difficult to see and it's gonna lag. Doesn't fit. Let's see. All right, there we go. So I can just zoom in. Hopefully I can just zoom in here, but maybe not. I don't know if there's a better way to look at this here. This is just gonna keep putting into the hand tool. There we go. So I asked for the couple variations of the baby, but it just pretty much looked exactly the same other than this one. So I decided to go with this. I think there was other iterations that I did, but I did like this. I didn't want to spend too much time on it. It just looked close enough. And the bird one, they just gave me the exact same bird that I had. This bird actually, I'll have a photo reference I can show you that it looked like my old guinea pig who now passed away. So it was designed based on him. So that was our first guinea pig, which was had the little stripe in the middle. Let me actually find it and then see. I have the photo reference for it. So that was the original motivation for that bird design. My first Teddy, and he passed, and so and we had the another guinea pig who actually got COVID and died as well. And so I wanted to actually tribute to the next guinea pig, which looks like this. So I wanted to recreate the bird based on the him, like um, or Theodore Barnabas the third. So that's the information I feed in to get the character design on those birds. So going back to that, and in obviously with AI, we went over this a lot. It wouldn't get it. So there's a couple iterations going on, and at the end, I was happy with this one. So I ended up picking this as a characters, and specifically started to put the prototype together. It's just couple scenes in a high level to get it. So like these were the first images that were in my first prototype, the proof of concept. And I liked it. And then some of the proof of concept videos that it made, it makes sense. It was not deviating a lot, so I was feeling pretty confident by this time. And the babies were consistent. Germs are similar to what I had. Um, so it was pretty consistent. So I was happy with it. But this is where it gets tricky. So I created a storyboard, which probably made sense because um, it would be difficult to even have all these different scenes because I was initially thinking 13 scenes, but since it has to be shorter and in sequence, I ended up with a lot more scenes. So, and I also, when I broke it down to the storyboard, I think that I ended up with about 30 different scenes, but I trimmed it down at the end. I can share the script, share the actual storyboard that I ended up with. There we go. So here is the breakdown. It turned out to be 37 scenes, but I didn't like all of it. It was harder to even tweak the storyboard with the AI. So I ended up cleaning up towards while I was building this thing, all the scenes together. So as said before, the meeting, the baby there, the bird's flying by, bird sees the baby, and you can even see from here that there is no consistency on the lighting and then the daylight because it's supposed to be during the day and with the bright sunlight, enough sunlight in the nursery room, and then there's a specific layout for the nursery room, and the bird has to be Like my guinea pig, there's a brown little patch on the eye, and it's white. The tail should be white too, but it depending on which scene you're looking at, the tail goes to brown, and some of the bird tips goes brown as well. You'll see that as I explain this too. So for the website equivalent, this is really the requirements that I was putting together to build all different parts, all different sequences or segments of the clips. So, and that bird sees the baby, and he was very curious and he wants to hang out. But if you look at details around this, like the baby looks different. So I'll point out all the things and then it'll make sense on the key takeaway points that I'm going to put together later on. So baby looks a little different and the room's a little different too. Anyways, story plot wise, I didn't think it would matter as I was going to tweak it as I go. And duration was also very um, arbitrary. So and also it didn't get respected a lot. Story plot with the image reference. He sees the baby and he taps the window. The bird taps the window so the baby wakes up. And you can also see again, it goes back to the same nursery, the baby, actual baby, and but there's a blanket now, and then the window's on the other side. So, and baby wakes up and he gets excited to see the baby, the bird, and then I don't know where he's looking at to see the bird, but that was the whole point of just him getting excited to see the bird. Then the bird actually sees baby getting excited and he's also happy. But now, if you look at it, he's inside the room, not outside the room. Anyways, little tweaks. Um, the details we'll fix later, but I thought it would be just kind of good photo reference for it. And the bird found the open window and he tries to go in. And again, the room's completely different. And I don't know where this weird design from the outside of the house came from. He goes in. He's not flying out. He's supposed to go in, but again, the photo reference didn't really make sense. He goes in, he lands on the medicine bottle. And this medicine bottle, this is a metaphor for he's gonna use it later. It lands on it, and then he goes to the crib, but this actually turned into a completely different scene again. He's supposed to go from here to the crib. Anyways, long story short, so that was with a metaphor. So it was a more one of the important scene to put in, and it goes in and plays with the baby, and then the whole aspect ratio becomes weird, and then the blanket changed, and they play together. They're happy to play together while they're playing. The bird sneezes on him. As you can see, the bird character changed, and he grew for some reason. So he sneezes it in, and the germs all go into the body, and then just kind of exponentially grow, and the baby gets sick. For some reason, it turned into a night. It wasn't supposed to. And the bird freaks out, but the bird's is a completely different character, and for some reason, baby's behind him, not in front of him. Anyways, so he freaks out, and he's trying to figure out, oh, and he's gonna go for the medicine, and he makes sure the medicine's there, and then he brings back and give it to the baby, and make sure that he goes in and looks at him to make sure this was a duplicate, and I actually deleted because it didn't need to be there. Gives to the baby, and then the medicine goes in, and I don't know why this is like a weird scene too, so I have to clean it up. And as the medicine goes in, the white cell pumps up and it starts fighting the germs. And I actually end up liking these germs better, so I stuck with it. So they fought and they won. And this is a weird scene that as soon as they won, he's supposed to just sneeze. So he sneezes on the bird, and exaggerated germs and saliva goes to the baby, and to the bird, and the bird shakes it off. And when while he was shaking it off, the baby tried to sneeze again, and he initially I was gonna put this instead. He's trying to look for the pacifier to close his mouth, but instead he runs away, and the baby catches it and put that into the mouth, and the final gag was what? I'm just a baby. I put everything in my mouth. So that was it. And then there's, like I explained before, I try to remove a couple of these. And if I go back to the horrendous process of me going through, let me just zoom it out to see how many different iterations I had to put to get this to what I wanted it to be. So I'm going to squish it. Yeah, I have to really zoom out to see all this. Yeah, there's a lot of different iteration. I have to change it specifically for these. And you can see there's a lot of different iterations of babies just turning into different person, the birds turn into a different person, and the actual what was it? The angle? No, the scenes that are kind of switching differently because the bird's supposed to be right outside of the window, but for some reason they were like on top of the mountain, which wasn't the case. So there's a lot of those, but ended up giving up. But at one point, it just changed to a 2D carton, a 2D cartoon. So there's the whole iteration of me going through to fix it. And the end results, I'm sure you're probably more curious about that. Proof of concept was all right. These were good proof of concept, even for the clips and then images, like I showed before. And the scenes, I had to cut it all together to make sure I can put this to individual storyboard. And videos wise, you can see how many different things I have to go through and I had to remove and I had to do like at least 4 or 5 different versions of each scene because it was keep getting the wrong, getting the little details off or even like huge details off. So after going through all this, and I'll show you, um, I'll compiled all the scenes that I exported after few iterations on each scene. So it turned I composited it to a point that I removed all the weird scenes that are transitioning, and so I had to composite for a few hours just to kind of put together to make sense, but it still looks very clunky and everything seems kind of not together. But you can kind of see the storyline put together before you go really into refining it. Well, there you go. So, as you can see, I couldn't get the ending right. And there's a lot of things that I could do more, but after 2 full days of doing this, and I realized that my goal wasn't to get to the fine tuning to a point that it's a final product that looks decent. But it was just to experiment how far it can go with AI, to test it out pretty much. And I mean, I could finish it up, but first just to show the progress on it. And I don't know if I'll ever finish it because to be honest, like I pretty much got sick of fighting the AI and then not getting the results that I'm asking for. So I paused on it at that point. And obviously, there's no music to it. If I were to put the music together, I probably have to put it into right format or I have to redo the music to fit into the new scene. So at that point, that I was like, all right, I'll pause on it. But at the same time, I wanted to share some of the points, key takeaways that I got, and I can relate to the vibe codings that we tested out previously on other episodes. The key takeaway on this. So it took me full 2 days. It was full days that I actually try to use AI to recreate what I've done for the whole year. Obviously, there's a lot of skipping parts. Things are faster because I didn't have to model it, I didn't have to texture it, I didn't have to rig it, I didn't have to actually do the animation. I just have to prompt. The key point one was that AI is making it's great at making things, but not really making it all very coherent. So my biggest frustration wasn't the quality, that it was the coherence. So it was beautiful shots individually, and it was interesting frames, and some of the things were actually better than what I initially had. But it didn't feel like it belongs to one film. As I said before, the characters constantly switching, the color of the character, and then some of the little details are switching. The scenes are switching. If there was no blanket there, but at one point there's a gray blanket. At one point there's a gray needed blanket, and all the scene um, position and placement were all off. Every single time it was off. It'll pretty much provide a different scene and different lighting, different day, different time of the day. So it was really hard to put the right consistency as a one film. And it's same thing with when we were testing out the vibe coding, that we have to constantly ask and constantly redefine and constantly give them directions, and it will still not follow certain things. So that's the resemblance of trying this as well as trying the vibe coding app. So like it was same thing was happening in vibe coding app as well as AI websites and marketing pages. They look fine in isolation, but they feel wrong as a whole. So yeah, I mean, it actually is a great point that the AI generated each output as a fresh remix. So there's no real connection to remembering things. There's certain things that they remember correctly, but there's not all the details that are remembered correctly. Consistency is more valuable than creativity. Um, it can be interpretable, but so there are levels of creativity, but at the same time, like I said before, it's not consistent. And yeah, I mean, you can read this, but the main problem was the character will constantly drift, style will change, narratives wobble. So narratives were even respected. So the product feels off because of all these little details were missing everywhere. So this is the same thing, same issues that we had when we're testing out to build stuff, because like it's really great at prototyping it, but once you start getting into details to actually fine tuning and putting the real things that you need to put in based on the requirements, that's when things started to not get complete or missing, or it's very hard to communicate to actually get those right. So it was easier to just tweak it on your own. So that was happening on this experiment as well. So storyboard and specs still matter. That's exactly what I just is it's indicated that storyboard was the spec equivalent for this experiment, but it would constantly switch and it would not get respected. It will change on its own. It'll just add its variations on its own, considering it's their own creativity, but it's not really something that I asked for. So I rebuilt my storyboard to make it understandable by the AI, but still get it wrong. So I have to force scene by scene generation and I have to keep tweaking it and try keep refining it, but it will still get it wrong or it will just go completely different directions. Same thing with when we're doing the vibe coding, like when we try to specifically ask for something, it will change that on top of all the other things that we're not supposed to be changing. So there's a lot of frustration on that. There might be a better way to do it, but I don't think it's there yet. So yeah, so like AI without structure is chaos and AI with structure is powerful. But at the same time, it's very, very difficult to keep that structure consistent. I mean, it's great. AI doesn't fail because it's stupid, but it fails because it doesn't remember. That's a big thing. It doesn't consistently remember everything. So it might be the limitation at this point that you have to constantly fit in the same information over and over again, or there's a way to handle that. But it wasn't there out of the box. Maybe there's a problem. I'm sure there's probably a way to do it, but at this regular use or general use of the AI that I was using, it wasn't there. So every time I regenerate it, it forgets the character detail, it forgets the tone, it forgot the style, it forgot the decision I made an hour ago, and it was constantly switching to their creative solutions, which I didn't ask for. We saw this with the vibe coding. The code worked, but the architecture decays, decisions get undone, system drifts. It's more on every time we try to fix something, it changes other things was the bigger issues. So it's very similar in that end. For me, when did this experiment, it almost felt like it was about 40% done when I did the AI experiment with this recreating my film. So yeah, you can it's great at blocking drafting, prototype, and exploration, but fine tuning, final polish, emotional pacing, brand coherency, like or consistency, product integrity, all these were lacking on this experiment as well as pretty much any vibe coding we have tested out. But yeah, it's a good point that it's why I can speed up the work but not finishing it at this point. I'm sure it's going to change going in the future. So, this might be why you feel that AI built product feels hollow, or it takes a lot of effort to fine tuning it to make it perfect. So, the whole film, as you saw the end product, that is very remix film. It was inconsistent. It was very disconnected. And so far, what we experiment with AI vibe coding was like the websites, the landing pages, dashboard. They were very prototype stage. So as long as and after the prototype, you take over and fine tune it with the real experts and real coding and then real oversight of it, it's probably strong and it expedites a lot of things. And if it saves a lot of time, using it very smartly like that will be a good use of AI at this point. On vibe coding as well as in experiments like this. Yeah, this experiment proved that it's not there yet, but you can also use it as a starting point or even like a subordinate tool to make it faster. But you just need to make sure you are overseeing it, fine tuning it, and making sure that all the details are kept, all the details are respected. That's still human job. So to recap, there's 7 different things that I just mentioned. So hopefully this was a useful experiment for you as well as for me to see um, a different approach to testing out AI and how much resemblance it had when we're trying to vibe coding and using AI in development world. Oh, I didn't get to finish my beer. Obviously, that's 32 ounces. But It was a fun experiment, and, it was good to just revisit my old film. I don't know if I'll ever finish recreating it with AI as it gets better, as the technology evolves, but for now, that's where I stopped, but it was fun experiment and also kinda put me back to a nostalgic moment of those times that I was really working on those. But at the same time, also made me feel like a lot of things that I had to really spend nights and days doing it was so much easier now. Granted that it's 12 years ago, it's still, it was an interesting experiment to test it out. So that's the show.